All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. Alongside me is former MLB pitcher and former, I want to say I saw, is it Japan or a Korean baseball pitcher? One of
Base
those leagues, right?
Japan. Japan.
Japan. Okay. Dennis, am I saying this right? So,
Sarfate.
Safarte. Okay. I that's why I wanted to ask you. I didn't want to screw up. So,
No, that's all right. Oh, you're good.
but thank you. It took so long. Finally, I'm sorry it took so long, but hey, we finally got together to do this. And I appreciate it. So yeah, let's begin. Um, we talked a little bit beyond hand. Tell us a little about yourself, your draft history, what you know your time in baseball. Tell it. We got into it beforehand. Yeah, now that we're live, go ahead. You got the floor.
Sure. Yeah. Grew up in Arizona. Um, got drafted out of high school by the Texas Rangers, but turned it down. I realized I wasn't ready to go professional at that point. Had a full ride to ASU. Went to ASU, and after my freshman year, I realized that maybe school wasn't the answer for me. I just didn't have a desire to be in school and play at the same time. So transferred out my sophomore year, got drafted by Milwaukee in the ninth round, got hurt early, had an elbow surgery, and then came back a totally different pitcher. I had a pitching coach that actually worked with me in my mechanics. I got drafted at a guy that was a right-handed pitcher, 90 to 94, were my first rehab assignment. After my surgery, I was 97 to 101. And I think at that point, the Brewers realized that they had something brewing, so to say, as a ninth rounder throwing that hard. Played the next year. I was with, Beloit, my team I told you earlier with Tony Gwynn Jr., Ricky Weeks, Prince Fielder, Manny Parra, Tom Wilhelm. We had a team that was so stacked. Got the AA in 04 and then was on the roster early and really just didn't really grasp what I was doing as a professional. I had a love for the after baseball night, the partying, and kind of got caught up in that. But I still threw hard, so the team wasn't going to get rid of me. I was throwing 100, even till the day I retired, and as a 39-year-old
Right.
in Japan. So was really fortunate and blessed to be able to keep playing and do that. But got to the big leagues in 06 with the Brewers, got traded in 07 to Houston, played in the big leagues with them, got traded to Baltimore in 07 in the winter, played with Baltimore there for 2 years, and then ended up going to Japan for 11 years. And then I retired in 2021 after 21 seasons.
That's amazing. 21 seasons. Oh, wow. That seems hard to believe, don't it? It goes by so quick, don't it?
Yeah. And you said this show is called Coffee Time, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's in Arizona, on Labor Day, we do beer time.
There you go. So kind of change it into beer time. How about
Yeah,
that?
we'll do beer time with Dennis, right?
There we go.
Baseball was a great sport. It was something that I enjoyed. I took pride in. I will say this: I probably didn't get to the point where I was professionally until I got to Japan, where I actually succeeded and did everything I thought I was capable of doing. I broke a lot of records over there. I still hold the foreign record for saves. I held the single season record for saves with 54. Won the MVP in 17. My success all came in Japan. And looking back, I'm just so blessed to have 21 years as a professional player, to get paid to play a game as sweet as baseball is, to play a game for 21 years and get paid to do it. It's pretty awesome.
Well, as we talked previously, yeah, I had on one of your old pitching coaches, Rick Severe.
Yeah.
And tell us about that experience. I mean, you guys literally grew up together and came up together. You guys were stacked teams back in the day. God, I remember, even though you guys won no championships, unfortunately, but I mean, you guys were stacked from stacked to stacked of future Hall of Famers. I mean,
Yeah,
let alone names on your teams.
Yeah, that
Tell
was
us
the
tell
projectability.
us about that experience of coming up at the same time, knowing each other in the minors, and then coming up all pretty much at the same time.
Yeah, that was the projectability. Everyone always had all these aspirations for us as a team. Um, we were just living in the moment at the time. It's hard to have these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids believe in something on that, right? Prince went on to have a fantastic career. Ricky, Tony Wynn Jr., myself, Manny Parra. Um, but living in the moment, we were just young kids, just having fun, playing a game. Doing the minor league circuit, going from town to town. Um, Rich Savor as my pitching coach. He was my pitching coach in 03 and then was again my pitching coach in Double A later on in my career in I think 05.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Great guy, just pushed us. He played. He didn't have overpowering stuff, so he was able to associate, the game and technique and form and all the things that he was trying to teach us as young pitchers. But he was a good guy to play for, right? Don Money. Minor league baseball is one of the greatest things you can do. I mean, you grind it out daily with not a lot of money making as far as like you get drafted and guys that are first rounders sign for millions of dollars. But when you're in the minor leagues, especially that year in low A, everyone's making $800 a month back then.
Yeah.
Now
Right.
it's a lot different.
Right.
But you played because you loved it, and there was just a different feeling, to when I made it and I started making money and you start to think about it, you almost lose track of what you came from and what you did to get to that point. The minor leagues was fun, but it also was rewarding, but it also sucked at the same time, right? Peanut butter and jelly was your favorite sandwich. Lunch meat, you would yell at guys that would leave BP early to go eat all the food that was in the clubhouse before the game started.
Right.
But the coaches that are in the minor leagues, they have a hard job. That's a hard job to maintain and to allow these kids to prosper, but also teach them. And there's a lot of different attitudes and different abilities. And so, Rich did a really good job as a pitching coach, and he's definitely one of my favorite that I had. I mean, he was so good that we let him play in our Texas Hold'em games, on night after games. But I love taking his money, by the way. So if he ever watches this, I took a lot of his money for sure.
Oh, he'll be watching. I'll text him. I'll
Yeah.
text him. Yeah, he was definitely a great guy. I enjoyed having him on. And yeah, we did talk a little bit about you. He said he always admired your stuff. He thought you would did go on to great things, and boy was he right. You did. You spent 21 years.
Yeah, I wish I would probably have listened to guys like him a lot more and did it all in the big leagues. That's the live and learn part of it, right? I get to pass this on to other kids, other kids trying to make it, even in high school kids, to my own son. I thought I knew it all. I thought I had it all. I threw 100, and so I didn't listen probably the way I should have. I actually, it's so crazy. A couple of days ago, my pitching coach from AAA, Stan Kiles, reached out to me and he said, I told him, man, can you believe I paid 21 years in this game? And he goes, yeah, I believe it. It's one of those things where you look back and it was like, I thought I had no chance of doing it. There was times where I came home and told my wife, like, it's over. I'm done.
Yeah.
And to play 21 years was a blessing and an honor. I loved every minute of it. And like I said earlier, it went by so fast.
Now, did you know right away when it was time to call it quits, or did you still honestly want to continue playing?
No, it's a sad story, to be honest. So in 2017, I broke every record in Japan. I finished the season with 54 saves, a 1.05 ERA, 100 plus strikeouts to 10 walks. And I won the MVP of the league. I won the MVP of the Japan series. And I signed a 3-year extension that offseason. In the start of 2018, I started the season off 5 saves in a row, and I felt a pop in my hip. Ended up having my hip labrum repaired by Dr. Philippon in Vail, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Never came back in 18. They said, hey, you'll be ready to go in 19. 19 came. Hip still killed me. 20 came, COVID came. I was okay, but still was not feeling good. And by the end of 2020, I had my hip replaced, and 2021, my contract ended and I was done. So I went from winning the MVP to pretty much never playing again. And so it all ended so abruptly, right? And I never thought that it would have went that way because every year I got better. 14, I saved 37 games. 15, I saved 41 games. 16, I saved 43 games. 17, I saved 54 games. 18, get hurt, career's over. And so it was one of those like, what just happened? Kind of like an awakening, like baseball's done.
Yeah.
I knew once I had my hip replaced, it was over for sure. Bo Jackson was one of the only other players to ever have his hip replaced and try to play. He played one game, and we all know who Bo Jackson was as a freak athlete.
Exactly. Yep. Too
This
bad.
guy at 40 years old wasn't going to try to come back at that point. Played 21 years. I figured that, you know what, that's probably good. And so when I retired, it was kind of like a end of it, but there was still something like missing. Like I wanted to finish off, like I wanted to ride off on my own terms. And even though I got hurt and it wasn't my own terms, I realized, you know, I got to play 21 years. That's pretty special. And I look back on it. I'm not disappointed in how it ended, but it sure would have been a lot better to finish somewhere else.
Now, looking back on it, though, do you think? I know obviously you got injured and all that, but looking back, do you think you could have done anything different to maybe like
Stay healthy.
stay healthy and help yourself? Yeah.
No, when I got to Japan in 2011, I changed my whole outlook on pitching and my body. I went from being this overweight, hard throwing guy to a guy who took his physical health serious. I changed my diet. I went into full lifting and cardio, which I still do that now to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And so my body's transformed, you know, and I realized I did everything I possibly could, but I also threw in 70 plus games 6 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I look at guys now and it's like, last night I'm watching the D-backs and Dodgers and they're like, well, the closer's not available because he threw 2 games in a row. There were times in Japan where I threw 6 games in a row. Like I would never tell a coach that I was tired or I couldn't go. There was a time in 2017, the year I won the MVP, that my manager told me to actually go home. He's like, because I know if you're here, I'm going to use you. And if you're here, you're going to go in and pitch. And I had thrown 6, I threw in 6 straight games. And he's like, I can't do this. So go home. So I went home. And there's honestly nothing I could have done that changed any of that. It's just, you know, you play that long, you're bound to get hurt. You're bound to get something that's going to end your career. It didn't end the way I wanted to, but you know what? I'll take what I got and I'll end it the way it ended and be happy with it. I'm not going to complain.
Now, obviously, like you said, you had more success over in Japan than you did over here. Why do you think you had more success over there than you did over here? Not enough chances over here compared to over there, or what do you think happened along the line?
No, I'll never say that. I had plenty of chances. I think work ethic. I think here I took for granted what my ability was. I took for granted that I threw hard. When I got over there, I had a family at that time. You know, I was young. Here in the States, I was young. When I was in the big leagues, even here up until the last year, I got married in 2007. I had a kid in 2008. And in 2011, I'm already in Japan. I think it was just knowing what I had, got over there, and I realized that, you know what? I need to make money for my family. I got over there and I had a mission, right? Here, it was always given to me, like I was never going to get released, right? I always threw hard. That always was going to save me. That was always my free ticket in my back pocket. But when I got to Japan, I was already, like, at that point, I was gone from America. MLB was in the back mirror. And I just figured, you know what? This is my last chance. And if I want to have something for my family, I gotta go all out. And I just remember in my first year there, I broke the foreign first year foreign season save record at 35 with a 1 ERA. And so after that, it was just like, okay, just keep going. And that's what I did. So I spent 11 years there. And, most of my success, most of the money I made was all pretty much in Japan.
That's great. That's crazy when you think about it, don't you? But
Yeah,
hey, but like you said though, it goes to show you grew up. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, you wish you would have had changes over here, but
sure.
hey, I mean, like you said, it's life. It happens. You live and you learn. That's the beauty of life, isn't it?
Yep. Guys get caught up in that, and you know what? Life is too short to worry about the what
Exactly.
if. And
Exactly.
so I had 21 years. I'm pretty happy with it.
Now over there, before I gotta ask you, um, Otani came over here in 18. That was his rookie year. You were over in Japan, like you said, in 11. I'm sure you had to face him numerous amount of times. What was your record? What was your record against him, and what was he like going up against him?
Good. So here's the deal. I faced him 13 times. He got 2 hits. He hit a triple off me, which he hit a ball so hard and so low that hit the wall in Sapporo. He was
Mhm.
standing on third by the time the ball got to the cutoff man. And then he hit a squibber down the third baseline. And then the rest of the time, I've struck him out a lot. He had a lot of holes. He was young. He was raw. And I remember after 17, I wanted to get posted to come back. My wife had some health issues. I was trying to get posted. He was getting posted.
Mhm.
And Baseball America called me and they're like, "Hey, give us some info on this guy." And I got to say, I was wrong. I told him, I said, he's a hitter only. I said, I've seen him pitch. He has no, his demeanor on the mound was totally different than what it is now. He was
Right.
he would smile a lot and this and that. Uh,
Right.
we lit him up a few times, but as a hitter, I was always like, this guy's a stud. The only hole he had was in inside part of the plate. And I
Mhm.
told someone that his first spring training, if you go back and look at his first spring training, he struggled. Guys were blowing him up inside. He couldn't touch it. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, something went off in him, and he just started turning on 97, 98. And now you look at it, he was a freak. I mean, the guy can throw 102, 103, get in the box, hit bombs. I watched his BPs before when he was 20 years old. It was some of the most impressive batting practices I've ever seen in my entire life. And I saw Josh Hamilton hit BP. I saw all the best of them hit BP. This kid by far had the best BP I've ever seen. Um, but I dominated him, and I went to All Star games with him many years, 6 years in a row. Him and I were. I have selfies with him. Great kid. I was so happy to see him come over. I'm so happy to see his success, and I root for him. He's one of the only guys. I don't watch baseball that much right now. I'm too busy, but
Right.
whenever I can, I check his stats because I always want to see how he's doing, and he hasn't disappointed yet.
No, he hasn't. Now he's projected to hopefully pitch again next year, but if the Dodgers know what's honestly good for them, I know they paid him to do I
I
know
think
they
I would take him. I would take him out.
yeah, I know they paid him to do both, but
Hey, listen, the money they paid him is going to be paid back in advertisements. They're not by the end of this contract. Japan's advertisements are going to pay for his pretty much full salary.
yeah,
This is not a guy who comes cheap. He already made $300 million in advertisements
over
before
there, yeah, when you
endorsed.
think about it, yeah,
So they're
before
not
he
losing any
yeah.
money. If they want to just make him the $60 million hitter, then I mean he has a real strong chance to go 50-50 this year.
Oh, for sure, for
And
sure.
for me, it's like he's worth every penny if he never steps on the mound again.
I agree. I agree. The Dodgers know what's good for them. They would just keep them as what they
I
are.
just don't know if, I don't know if he agrees with us because he's probably going to want to pitch again.
Oh, right, exactly. But if honestly, if I was him, no, I wouldn't either. I mean, going through Tommy John is one thing, like he did. I mean,
Yeah,
that's I know pitchers rebound, especially nowadays. They come back easily from that, but it's not the point. You're still killing your arm. You're still risking more harm to your arm by coming back from Tommy John. At
yeah.
least I think so. But then again, I never played and I never had to come back from that, so I couldn't tell. But I would think it'd be more painful to come back from that. But I don't know. Would you think so? As a former pitcher?
I know guys that have come back twice from Tommy John. Some of them 3 times. I think as a player, the injury is the thing that puts you to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to defeat this. And so if you have it once, you get through it, you rehab, you go. He would do it again if he had to, right? All athletes would, all pitchers would. If they had to have 2 Tommy Johns, 3 Tommy Johns, you never think about post playing ever. Like I never think about post playing. When I was throwing 70 games a year, I never thought about what effect is this going to have on my body when I'm 45, when I'm 50. Who cares? At that point, we're thinking the moment, get the job done, and that's it. And so for me personally, I just think he should be a hitter because the limits. I mean, there's nothing that he cannot do. He can steal 40, 50 bags every year and hit 40 homers. He can go 40-40 for the next 5 years straight, which is would be amazing. Like no one would even understand it, right? But then you add the pitching side into it, and it's just like, well, I don't even fathom that. Like a guy that starts 25 games, hits 30-something homers, and drives in 100. It's unheard of. And you see what Judge is doing, but Judge isn't going and throwing off the mound and starting 15, 25 games.
Right.
But it's not that less impressive, right? Judge is impressive. He's one of the best players in the game. And maybe, I mean, right now, a future Hall of Famer, hands down. I mean, the guy's almost at 300 home runs. I think he actually just got his 300th home run.
Yeah, he did.
Crazy.
And 1,000th hit.
Yeah, and he's hitting 330. The guy can hit. The guy's smart. Ohtani's the same hitter. But you know what? He also throws 100 off the mound. And so, and it's not just like he throws 100. Like I played with a guy in Milwaukee, Bruce Kieschnick. Brooks was a good pitcher, but he was a reliever that threw 92, but he could hit. And it was like, that was a big thing. The Brewers were like, this guy hits 300 with 40, steals 40, and can win you 15 games on the mound. It's unheard of. It's crazy.
Now I got to ask you, as a former pitcher yourself, obviously the game has changed now to straight up DH. Honestly, I hate it because I grew up with the NL having a pitcher hit, which I kind of like because I kind of like seeing the pitcher hit. Now, as a former pitcher, I mean, do you hate to see that? Do you hate to see that pitchers don't get to hit no more in the NL?
I had a couple minor league home runs as a starter. I loved hitting, but at this point, like you're penalizing the team to make your pitcher hit when the American League has a DH. I think it needs to be fair. Like you need to have it helps players out. It helps guys that can sign with NL teams as a DH guy. Japan's not changing. They still have a pitcher hitting. I actually got an at bat as a closer there, which I think was a mistake. I think the manager just made a mistake. But in the big leagues, like let a home run hitter be in the DH. Like we don't need pitchers hitting. I know that there's guys. The one from the Giants and played for the D-backs, lefty. I forgot. I can't think of his name right now. I know he hits homers and
Madison Bumgarner.
He was great, right? But there's not many Madison Bumgarners, and there's not many of those Lorenzens. But just let the DH take over. Like let it be evil. Let it be even. We don't need to have a guy hitting home runs on one league as a DH and then the pitcher's hitting in the other league. Just let it be the same.
Now, like you said, you spent the most time over there in Japan. Now I got to ask you, what do you find difference about the pitching and hitting the game differently compared to the U.S. compared to Japan when you were there to here, the time that you spent over here?
Work ethic.
How do you think the game has changed over the years from there to here to, if you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, work ethic. They would believe that your practice is your responsibility. The game is the reward. That's the way Japan thinks of it. You practice 100%, give it all out, and your game is the reward of how you practice. Granted, here there's more talent and so you just kind of get prepared and you get ready. But there's no, I mean, Kodai Senga was my teammate in SoftBank. You see all of these Japanese pitchers. Imanaga, we beat him in the Japan World Series in 2017. Daisuke, Yu Darvish. I can go down the whole list of guys that are coming over. There are so many guys in Japan that can come play here and pitch because they're solid. They can throw 4 pitches for a strike at any point. They can throw a 3-0 slider for a strike all day long, and you would never think twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that their practice is a methodical, and it's every day. It's the same thing. They don't change. They do the same thing from start to finish. They play the game. That's a reward. In the States, you're just playing the game, and it's fun, and you practice for a little bit. You run. That's what was the biggest difference for me is I got to Japan, and it was like your pitching workout on the field was like intense. I would get done sweating bullets and have to change, like go in the clubhouse. Like I just did a full workout. This is crazy. But then you realize like, okay, you get the break and the game starts and you're ready to go. So I would just say difference in the workout before practice makes perfect. And they're making up for talent level, right? Like their talent level is not the same. There's only so many Shoheis, right? Imanaga's good. Kodai Senga is good, but that's not the – there's 6 starters in Japan on every team, 6 starting pitchers. The 3, 4, 5, and 6 aren't playing in the big leagues, right? The 1, 2 can pitch in the big leagues all day long. The relievers, I mean, my bullpen when I was there, there were guys pumping 97, 98 all day long with splits, curveballs, sliders, cutters. I mean, 6 pitches for strikes. They just don't want to leave. They love Japan. They're making a ton of money. My team was one of the highest paid teams in all of Japan. Our payroll was almost $85 million, which is more than the Rays, more than Oakland, more than the Royals. I mean, it's crazy. But it's the point of you practice and then you practice and you practice, and then the game is the reward of how you practice. And that's really all it is.
Now, do you think they'll, when you were over there, compared to what it is over here, I'm sure when you were over here, you experienced the same thing. Do you think over there we'll implement what they did over here with pitch limit? Because over here, obviously, the pitch limit is a key factor. But over there, Japanese pitchers and even American pitchers over there that go over there, that's why they go over there. They want to pitch to full games, like starter-wise at least, that I know of. I don't know about
they'll never do a pitch limit there.
Yeah.
I've seen guys throw 300 pitch bullpens.
Do you think they'll change that ever? Or
never. Japan will never change that. It is a sign of honor. It is a sign of hard work and dedication. I saw a guy throw a 300 pitch bullpen. I'm not kidding you. I warmed up. I threw my bullpen. I left. I did my running. I did my core. I came back. He was still throwing. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And they're like, oh, this is Japanese style. They'll never change that. That just, there's something in there that they love, that they love to keep doing. But looking fast forward it, all of the studs that have come over here from Japan have all had Tommy John. Senga needs it. You can ask Kodai right now. He needs it. He needed it 5 years ago when I was his teammate. Daisuke had it. Darvish had it. Tanaka had it. Shohei had it. Tanaka had. Oh, you can name every Japanese player that Fujimoto had it that came over here with the Cubs. Wada had it with the Orioles. You can name every Japanese pitcher that has come over here, and they've all had Tommy John. Why? Because of that. Because of the 300 pitch bullpens. Because they don't stop. I've seen guys start a game and throw 147 pitches. If they're throwing a shutout, they're not leaving that game. That's the biggest difference, and I think that's also the thing that hurts them the most. There's no protection. Like they have a kid now, which thank God that he has a guy like Yoshi as his pitching coach and his manager with the Chiba Latte Marines. But Sasaki, he throws 104, but they protect him. You know, Otani was protected. the fighters did a really good job with him. Darvish was protected. Darvish threw every Wednesday. If Wednesday's game got rained out, Darvish threw next Wednesday. Darvish didn't throw Thursday. He didn't throw Friday. He threw every Wednesday, and that was his day, and that was it. So rain out, sorry, next week he's your eye. Ohtani, same thing. Friday, rain out, well, we'll see you next Friday. They did a good job. The other guys, they don't do it that good of a job with. I was there when Tanaka was 24-0 with his point whatever ERA.
Yeah.
They just don't. They'll never let up. They'll always do it. And by the time those guys leave Japan, they all need Tommy John. And that's part of the culture. But I think that's also part of the thing that separates them is like, you know what? These guys have given so much and they've perfected their sport and their position to where there's nothing that can separate them. These guys throw 5 pitches for a strike. Sometimes you got to take pitches away from them because you're like, hey, that's too many pitches. Like your catcher doesn't have enough fingers to throw down to call this. Just let's throw 3 pitches. But, Ohtani threw 6 pitches for a strike. Cutter, slider, curve, split, fastball, 2-seamer, changeup. You're like, well, who the hell's calling these pitches, right?
Yeah.
But that's what they do there.
Now, I don't know if you can see this in chat, but thank you to Baseball R Us who's joining us on YouTube right now. So if you want to turn on your YouTube, or I don't know if you can see it in chat, he has a question for you. He wants to know what was your longest home run allowed and who was it in both leagues?
Oh man. I gotta say here, it's funny. My longest home run ever was Luke Scott, and he ended up being my teammate in Baltimore, but it was in the minor leagues. It was in AAA. He was in Round Rock. I was in Nashville. It was a 3-1 changeup, and I still talk to him to this day, and he still gives me crap about it. In the big leagues, I gave up some good homers. If you watch a lot of my replays, like I gave up a lot of wall scrapers, and I'm not just saying this. Like I threw Miguel Cabrera an 0-0 curveball for a strike, threw him the exact same pitch the next time he hit it over the bullpen in Detroit. But that was that. In Japan, the farthest home run, I didn't give up very many, and a lot of them were probably barely out. But if I had to give one, Romero hit one off me. I was supposed to have a day off. We went extra innings, and I threw him, struck out the guy before him. And as a foreigner, so here's the deal. In Japan, as a foreign pitcher, when you face a foreign hitter, they're hitting off the catcher. Foreigners hit off the catcher in Japan. Most of the time because the catcher's afraid to give up a home run to that guy, so they're not going to call a first pitch fastball. Me throwing 100, you should expect a fastball, but knowing the catcher's Japanese, he's going to call first pitch breaking ball. So Romero told me, he's like, I was hitting dead curveball. I threw him an 0-0 curveball, and he hit this ball so far to walk it off. And I remember going into the clubhouse saying to my catcher, that was the stupidest call ever. You know what he's looking. And I shook for it. And it was just one of those plays where you're like, you know what? I deserve that. But Romero's probably the farthest ball I ever gave up. I gave up some home. I gave up one to Jeter opposite field. I never, it's funny. I always came up against the guys that were the big home run hitters, and I did well against them. I struggled against like the David Ecksteins. I struggled against the Rays, like all those guys. Home runs I gave up, there was never like one where you're like, oh boy. Maybe there's one more in AAA. Rubio Durazo hit one off me in AAA in Oklahoma City. That was pretty gone.
Now, I got to ask you about, since you were obviously played in both, I got to ask you about the fan bases. Who do you think's more rowdier and much better of a fan base, the American fan base or the Japanese fan base?
American fan base is a joke. Like I've said this for a long time. A lot of guys now go to the baseball games with their phones, they're texting. There could be a no-hitter going. And
not denying that.
And there could be a no-hitter, and there's people that have no idea what's going on. In Japan, from the first inning to the 9th inning, first of all, they sell beer for all 9 innings. There's no stoppage of alcohol. but for 9 innings, you have cheer sections that are nonstop. It doesn't matter if you're winning by 14 or if you're losing by 14, your cheering section's going. And, we're playing in front of 45, 50,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I did own Xavier Nady and Jason Bay, baseball R Us for sure. I came in just to face Xavier Nady a few times, like opening day against the Yankees in 2009, bases loaded, 1 out, and they called me in the 7th inning to face him grinding the double play. I struck Jason Bay out almost every time. And the funny thing about it is Jason Bay and I worked out together in the off season in Arizona. But yeah, I own those guys, even when he was in Boston. And Jason Varitek. Yeah, this guy, he must know exactly. There were guys that I don't own for sure.
That's what I like about this baseball or us guy. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Whether he gets it from wherever, I don't know, but he knows his stuff. Every time I see him on here, he knows his stuff. And I'm like, damn, dude, I wish I had your knowledge. And I followed baseball just probably as long as you have. Or I don't even know how old this dude is, but whatever. If he's my age, oh, there you go. He says baseball reference. There you go. So that works too. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with the fan base. I agree with the fan bases, honestly, because I've seen that going to these games. All I see phones out. I mean, it's a disgrace. You don't go to sporting events to have phones out. You go there to watch and enjoy the games. I mean,
that's in everything in our culture, though, right? You can be at a concert and everyone's filming it instead of realizing that they're live.
Right. I mean, I agree. It's ridiculous. I don't. But whatever. But yeah, what do you think it was about? Back to this baseball or us guy. What do you think? What was it about Nady and Jason Bay and Varitek that had you dominate them? What was it? Was it their swing? What did you see in them that made you dominate them?
Probably just confidence. Jason Bay was an all-star. He was a guy who was up for MVP one year. I think I just always came up to the occasion. Maybe mentally, I came down a little bit when there was other guys like David Eckstein. But for me, the majority of it was probably just my stuff versus them. Maybe they didn't see the ball real well out of my hand. Because then there were some guys like, I did well against A-Rod, against Jeter. I did well against Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz. It was just, I got hurt in the big leagues here in America with walks. I killed myself with walks. I walked more guys, and then I would give up a hit, and then we did. So really, I never really got owned by a hitter. I beat myself a lot, and it wasn't until I got to Japan where I actually refined my talent and my skills, and trusted myself, and actually I got confidence that I ended up starting to have more confidence in my own ability. But then realizing this is a game. I can do what I do. My ability is what it is. Here's my stuff. Hit it. And it was more like what pitching coaches like Rich Savor always said: just throw it down the middle and let him hit it. I remember a time when Rick Ankiel and Skip Schumacher came up to me after a game. We were in Memphis, and they were like, Dennis, throw the ball down the middle like you're throwing 100 and you have a curveball and a changeup. Throw it down the middle. And I was like, I'm trying. Like this, I'm actually trying to throw it right down the middle. I just didn't have an idea. And it was a mechanical issue that I actually fixed out a couple of years later. But I think guys come into their own, at their own times. Sometimes it comes quick, sometimes it doesn't. I spent 10 years in the States before I went over to Japan, and then I get to play 11 more years. So obviously I figured it out, right? Obviously I did something that got me better and did something that was worthwhile. So sometimes it just happens a lot easier for people. And other times it's just, I played with guys that didn't figure it out for 3 years and they were done and they went home and that was it. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, grateful for the talent that I had, the ability that I had, but not everyone figures it out at the same time.
Now, obviously, like you said, you hold the records now over there in Japan. Do you see anybody breaking your records over there?
No, I don't. 54 saves is a lot of saves in 143 games. That year, I only blew one save. Guys just don't last as long over there. I don't know what it is. Even Osuna was there with my former team. I met him last year there when I came out and had a retirement ceremony, and it's a hard. You're 9,000 miles away from your home, and the seasons are long. But 143 games to save 54, that's a lot of saves, and I don't see that being broken. And the other one with 200, and I think I have 240 or something like that. As far as a foreigner, the last guy that had that many saves was Mark Kroon, and he saved 187, and that was a foreign record, and I beat it, and I'm in the 230 range. So unless they're going to be there for years, I don't see it being broken.
Basically, you're the Cal Ripken over there.
Yeah, I just played a long time. I did well. I don't see that breaking it.
You're confident that nobody will ever break your record over there because that's how Cal will.
54 saves. How many guys get 50 plus saves in the big leagues?
That's true, especially nowadays. Yeah, especially
at 162. You had Felix Rodriguez. You had Bobby Thigpen. I couldn't even tell you. Mariano Rivera. What was the most saves he ever had in a season? I don't know. Maybe Babies R Us or Baseball R Us can tell.
I don't think he ever had 50. I don't recall him ever having 50 in a season.
Me either.
No matter how great he was.
So if you think about 54 and 20 less games, that's pretty impressive.
That is. Yeah, maybe if you're listening, Baseball R Us, help us out here with how many Mariano had in a year, because I don't think it was ever 50. And he obviously, how he was, ended up a surefire Hall of Famer, first ballot, I'd say.
Oh, first ballot, not even a question. This guy, he's the greatest of all time. But let's see, I'm looking at it right now. 50, 53. He had 53 in 2004 and 50 in 2001.
Okay, so he had
4 games, 53 saves.
Okay, so he had a couple. Okay, all right.
But you're talking about one of the greatest closers of all time, right?
Right.
And so there you don't get that. As a Japanese team, if you bring in a foreigner, if he doesn't produce, you're done. You're going home. They'll release you real quick.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, that they will for sure. Yeah. So obviously, you also said, I believe you said you were part of the World Series and you won it over there.
I have 6 World Series rings.
So compared to World Series over here, from what obviously you didn't get to play it here, but I know you've seen it and witnessed it here. Compared to over there, is it different? Is it a different feel? Same.
60,000 people. It's the spotlight of the country. You have to understand, college or professional baseball in Japan is like college football, the NFL here. When you're in the Japan World Series, it is the biggest thing in the entire country, and so you're selling out stadiums. It's nuts. My girls consider me the Justin Bieber of Japan because they always say, like, Dad, it's when we go there, it's crazy. But here where I live in Arizona, no one knows who the hell I am, which is great. It's the best world ever. I don't have to worry about people coming up to me. But in Japan, it's nuts. It's like you have to sign autographs all day long. You can't go eat. You can't go here. But yeah, the World Series, the Japan World Series is one of the greatest things ever.
So out of all the players that you played against, I gotta ask you, which one I want to say, which one hit you the most? I know you obviously gave the ones that you owned, but who hit you the most in both leagues?
Oh man, BJ Upton here in the States. He had a pretty good success against me. And in Japan, um, you know, I got to be honest. If you look at my Japan stats, my career ERA is a 1.5 in like 500, 500 innings or whatever it is, 500 games. I didn't get hit very often. When I did get hit, I would lose a game. It would be a solo homer or this or that. I think I only gave up less than 20 home runs in 11 years there. There wasn't like this one guy that was like, this guy owns me. Not in Japan. In the States, there were guys. B.J. Upton was one of them. David Eckstein was one of them. But yeah, there in Japan, there's not one that I could pinpoint that says, yeah, this guy had my ticket. I just don't see it.
Now I gotta ask you too, stadium wise, are they different over here than over there? Because I know over there is mainly got domes, mainly.
I played in the dome.
Yeah, mainly over there is domes, and here has outdoor. What's the difference like in that? I know there's got to be some sort of a difference.
Well, there's some teams like Chiba, Latte Marines, where Bobby Valentine managed. You have fans that they're like, it's like European soccer. Their chants are crazy. It's loud. Tokyo Dome's crazy. Our dome was crazy. You just have fans that are intense. That's the biggest difference. You have fans here where you can sell out a stadium and it's loud, but it's kind of like just watching the game, and there it's just chaos for 9 innings. That's really the biggest difference.
No, I agree with some of the stadiums over here, especially LA. I mean, LA. I mean, I haven't been there, but I've heard it on TV. I mean, you can hear the roar of when the Dodgers players hit something. You can hear the roar over the TV. But I'm sure it's not. That's like you said. It depends on the stadium. So,
Yeah.
as a player wise, though, you probably don't even feel that like you would in probably a dome.
No, you don't. The domes are crazy, and they're packed. It's 50,000 people.
Now the Olympics. I know it's hard for you because you don't follow it that much anymore, but I know the Olympics is going by now. It's by city where it is a country where baseball is allowed and softball is allowed. Now, obviously, Japan takes off their season to play in the Olympics. Do you ever see MLB ever doing something like that? Because a lot of players have come out and said, including Bryce Harper, who's their main guy, even Judge has even come out and said the big names have come out. Trout has even said it too. All the big names have said they would be a part of it. Do you ever see them taking time off in a season like Japan does to play?
No, never. Money speaks. It's too much money. You're risking injuries. You're risking stopping a season for something nowadays that where the Olympics really doesn't hold what it used to hold, right? I mean, we just saw a dude beat a woman up in boxing and get the gold medal. I don't see baseball ever, MLB teams and owners ever letting their players go just to feed this Olympic frenzy. That's what the World Baseball Classic is for. That's why they started it, right? It was a preseason thing. They're never going to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to stop the season for 3 weeks to a month and let these guys go. They would. It's preposterous. They would never let it happen. It'll never happen.
Now, in your time, did you ever get especially when you were in the minors, did you ever get the opportunity to try out for when baseball was allowed?
In 2017, the Olympic Committee came to me and they said, "Hey, we would love for you to be on the Team USA." Only kicker was I had to stay after the season was over. After we went to the Japan series and won it, which was like November 2nd, I had to stay and go play with Team USA in Korea. And at that point, I was 37. I have a wife and 3 kids, and I was like, I just played 7 months. I'm going home. Like, I appreciate the opportunity, but I love my country. I would love to represent it. I said, but I can't stay here for another 3 weeks and then get home and then come back within a month and play again. It was too much, and I just declined. I declined it.
Now, do you actually get invited, or do you have to try out?
No, I was
Kind
invited.
of
If I would have said yes, I was on it. That's all I had to do was go. And so I said no. I could have played for Team Italy in the 2009 World Baseball Classic, and I declined that because I was trying to make the team. I had just gotten hurt at the year before, and I in Baltimore, and I was like, I just need to focus on this. So,
That's
yeah,
why I asked, because I was just wondering how that process went. If you
yeah.
guys had to like try out or whatever, because
No, I'm sure some guys do, but I didn't have to. But I just declined it. It wasn't the right time. I would have loved to have represented our country, but I just couldn't. I couldn't give that time when I missed so much with my daughters for the year
right.
and give you an
I don't
extra
blame you.
3 weeks.
I don't
And
blame.
I have a question. So Baseball R Us is asking, do I ever admit to beating anyone on purpose? Oh, my AAA manager Frank Columbus made me hit so many people on purpose. I don't even remember all the names, but I do know in the big leagues, one of the only guys I hit on purpose was Johnny Gomes in Tampa.
I actually remember that game because
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm here locally, so I get to watch all the Rays games. So
I hit him right in the
I
shin.
actually do remember that.
I hit him right in the shin.
He gave you a good look too, good stare
Yeah.
down.
And I ended up playing against Johnny in Japan later on, so we figured it out after that. We were good.
Well, I bet because at the time he wanted to come storm the mound.
Yeah.
uh, but what now? Tell us what was indeed your pitching repertoire. What was your go-to pitch, and what was your favorite pitch?
Fastball, obviously, how hard I threw. I developed a split finger in Japan. Hideo Nomo taught me in my first year there. Said, "Hey, you have big fingers. You should throw this." I had a spike curveball, which I love to throw. Really, later on in my career, um, I loved everything. My one catcher taught me that I could throw all of my pitches for a strike, and he's like, "You should throw everything first pitch." So I would start a guy off first pitch split. I would start the next guy off first pitch curveball. I would start the next guy off first pitch fastball. There were times where I didn't throw a fastball for the first like 7 pitches in an inning, and the other hitters were looking at me like, "What the hell's going on?" And it was just like, then it was fun. It was like toying with guys. But yeah, obviously my fastball is what kept me around the longest. And so I love throwing it, but developing those other secondary pitches was probably the greatest achievement of mine because for a while I couldn't do it. But once I got the hang of it and can throw a first pitch curveball for a strike, could throw a first pitch fork ball for a strike, it was like, oh, pitching is kind of fun now. Could pull the string, throw heaters, do this, do that. It changed a lot after that.
Now, Baseball said this. I forgot, but I kind of remember now that he said it. Gomes played for the A's as well. Did you pitch when he played for the A's, or was that
No,
before?
he was in Boston. I pitched against him in Boston and in Tampa.
Okay, so it was after you went to Japan.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I sort of figured that. I just wanted to ask that because I forgot until he said, that he played for the A's, because I do remember him playing for the A's. So that's why I had to ask you if you
Yeah.
pitched against him when he was with them. But I figured that was probably after you went to Japan.
Yeah.
Now my question over there is, uh, obviously you said you learned from Hideo Nomo, who told you to throw a splitter, right? I think it was, or whatever you said. Now, can you tell me about the language barrier? Did you have translators that help you out? How did that process go? Because I'm still kind of confused on how Americans go over there and can learn what the Japan learn what you have to learn a language. Do you get translators? How's that work over
I had
there?
a translator with me at all times. He'd always come out to the mound with the pitching coach if they had a talk. But my catchers all from every team I played with, hey, pitching's easy. One fastball, two curve, wiggle, five was a split finger. They knew the hitters. I trusted them. I never shook my catchers. That was the biggest thing for me was trust them. They'll trust you and go from there. That was easy. There was never a language barrier with my catchers. Some of my closest friends on the team were the catchers because we knew pitching, we knew baseball, and they would just say, hey, this guy likes this. And we would just go through the pitching charts. I never went to hitters meetings. They never let me go. They would just say, do your thing. And that was probably the greatest thing for me, was to know, hey, my catcher knows what he's doing. He has my back. Trust him and go from there. Baseball or Us, I did intentionally walk Barry Bonds. And the next guy was Ray Durham, and I got him the ground out. One of the coolest moments, I played at ASU. Barry played at ASU. I saw him in Beverly Hills a few years back. And I went up to him and I said, hey, Barry, I'm a big fan of yours. I got to play against you my rookie year. And he goes, what did I do against you? I said, well, I walked you intentionally. He goes, you cop out. And I said, yeah, but I got the next guy out. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I said it the other day, and my dad was over yesterday, went to the D-backs game last night, so saw Ohtani. Ohtani is having the 11th best season of Barry Bonds' career this year. And when you, as a baseball fan, as a baseball player, when you hear that and you see what Ohtani is doing, Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer, hands down Hall of Famer. I don't care what he did to get there. The guy was a stud. He was feared. He walked 200 plus times in a season. That's unheard of, right? He belongs in the Hall of Fame. And when I hear guys say, hey, Ohtani's having the 11th best season of Barry Bonds' career at what he's doing this year, that's impressive. It's amazing.
I agree with you to a point. I agree, yes. In his early days, yes, he should be a Hall of Fame. He did not have to take those steroids. He was a Hall of Famer before.
But how many home runs did he hit off guys that were on steroids that were pitching?
I get that, but I mean, he didn't have to do that.
No, he didn't. But the game was different back then, right? I remember being in meetings in 2001 when I got drafted, and steroids wasn't even an issue. I mean, everyone knew Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were on steroids.
Bro, yeah.
No one
knew that. And I was only 7 years old. I was only 7 years old.
That's when everyone cared about it. And yes, was it wrong? But did it change the game and what these guys did? No, they didn't.
And baseball artists said too. I agree with that too. Rose should be in the Hall of Fame too. No, yes, I get he betted. I get that. But honestly, I hate to say it, baseball artists, until he dies, he will never be in the Hall of Fame until he dies.
That's right, which is so sad that they're holding that over him to do that. I think it's evil. I think it's wrong. And I believe that Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. If A-Rod should be in the Hall of Fame. These are some of the greatest players of all time. I don't care.
Kurt Schilling won't be because of his politics. Kurt Schilling won't be, and he should be.
Yep, I agree. If you can pinpoint things about guys and what they did, then we need to go back to the 80s when guys were doing cocaine. The Mets, all the teams across and all the players across the league, who was doing cocaine, who was taking greenies, amphetamines, then they all have to be gone, right? I don't think you can pinpoint and say, well, they did steroids, they're out. Because there's a lot of guys that, David Ortiz was busted in the Mitchell report, right? Is he not going to be held accountable for that?
Right.
Is Manny Ramirez not going to be held accountable for that? Like, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. They all should be in the Hall of Fame. So I think it takes true baseball fans to realize that, right? I think a lot of people can act irresponsibly when they say, this guy doesn't, he did this, he did that. Well, you know what? There were people in the 80s doing cocaine. And you know what? That alters the way you play too. Never did it. I'm pretty sure it alters.
Baseball or Us agrees with us. Yes on Schilling. Yes on everybody else you just said for the Hall of Fame.
Well, who doesn't agree? Who doesn't agree with us? The baseball writers.
Right.
It's the guys that maybe didn't like them because the way they treated them in the club.
Right.
It's vendetta. And I think that's where the game is wrong. I think it actually should – the Hall of Fame – and I went to Cooperstown as a kid. I grew up in New York. The Hall of Fame should be voted on by former players.
Right.
Former players.
I always said that. Yep.
When they hand out the ballots during the season for who's going to be on the All-Star team, they ask the players, then they go to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
The Hall of Fame should be voted on by the players' choices.
I agree.
And if you ask every player, Barry Bonds, Schilling, Roger Clemens, Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez. They're all in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that they're not, and I hope that this happens before, Pete Rose included. So
Yep. I always said that from the very beginning. I agree. These writers are ridiculous because these are, you know what these writers are? Like you said, they're stingy old farts who have been either teased by or, been mistreated by the players in their time when they were playing or whatever, and they're holding a grudge.
everyone knows that Barry Bonds treated the media terribly.
Right.
But he was also not, he was tired of all the nonsense. I get it. I get it. It is what it is. Tom Brady cheated, right? They had in Deflategate, they had all this, but he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Same with Belichick.
Yep.
Same with Belichick. So, yep. I see a lot of this going on now. What's your take as a former pitcher on the substance rules? Because I've been seeing a lot of pitchers get suspended and tossed out from games on it. What's your take on that? What do you think should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed?
Yeah, they're idiots. I mean, let's not put pine tar on your neck and rub your neck. I played with guys that were great at Jamie Walker, Chad Bradford. They would put it down the piping of their pants. Guys like Brendan Donnelly would tell me how he would hole punch sandpaper to his glove and glue it to his hand. What do you want me to throw 100 miles an hour and let the ball slip out of my hand? Or I was a rosin guy, and that's it. I figured with sweat and rosin, that was good enough. Never put sunblock, bullfrog, never did pine tar, all of that. I didn't want the ball to stick to my hands, but some guys like it. I'm not going to fault them for that, but I don't think it's necessary. But you know what? Would you rather have 100 at your ear hole? Would you rather have 100 at least somewhere over the plate? I think we're getting to the point where guys checking hands after every inning, it's a little old. But I also see like the guys putting it on their neck or their hat, like get creative, do something different, right? Like Gaylord.
So do you think baseball's doing right in suspending them and checking them? Do you think they should be suspended?
No, because I think we should suspend hitters if they put pine tar on their bats. I think hitters that put pine tars on their bats over a certain length should be. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about having more grip on a ball. These guys wear batting gloves that are sticky as all get up. They put pine tar on their bats so they can literally swing a bat and the bat never leave their hands. It's just like, what are we doing? Are they cheating? Are they rubbing Vaseline on the ball? Are they? No, they're not trying to get different spin. I mean, they're trying to get a better grip on it. I mean, pine tar should probably be banned. You shouldn't put pine tar in the ball, right? I agree with that. But bullfrog, or if you have both, like for me, it was sweat and rosin. I can make the ball stick to my fingers. So I would have been busted. And I would have been like, I only put sweat and rosin. That's what they gave us. So, yeah, I'm kind of like, whatever. It is what it is.
Now, growing up in a game as you did, like you came up with all those guys that we talked about earlier. Are you still close with those guys to this day?
I talked to Manny Parr very sparingly. I haven't talked to Tony Gwynn Jr. in a long time, or Prince, or Ricky. I think what ends up happening, you play a long time, you see these guys, and you just get done. Like, I'm a family guy. I like being at home. I'm off the grid. I don't want to deal with anything. I just think guys, you'll stay close to some, like Matt Moore. I play with him in Japan, and I talk to him occasionally. Garrett Richards was my neighbor at my old house, and I talk to him occasionally. But I just think at the point where like you're retired and you're a family guy, you don't really do that. I don't play golf. I don't go and do all that stuff. I'm at home. We homeschool our kids. I'm busy with them. And it's like if I get a text, George Sherrill I talk to occasionally, that's fine. But yeah, I don't really do a whole lot with former guys. If I was the baseball commissioner, what would be your one thing to sell yourself that you should change to become commissioner? Man, I would get rid of the pitch clock. even though it's sped up the game and it's made it a little bit enjoy. I really enjoy the man on second starting in the extra innings during the season. I think it's amazing. But I have a lot against Manfred. I think he's ruined the game on a
He's
lot.
An idiot.
He's an idiot. I don't like where the game's going. I don't think we should appease the people that truly love the game, that don't love the game, that are doing something that is totally outlandish. Like, the game has been what it is for 100 years, and no one complained. I do enjoy, the fact that you start with a runner on second. It's a little extreme, but it makes the games kind of speed up. I remember I played a 26 inning game once in AAA. That sucked, right? But the pitch clock, you can't pick over twice. Like, it's like they've ruined the game where they're just trying to make it more offensive so that people want to watch it, right? It's all about what people can handle. Let's be real. It's 2024 and people's minds have 20 seconds of capability of paying attention to something. You can't teach someone else. It's like TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Snapchat. It's like 20 seconds, you have my attention, and after that, it's gone. Well, sorry, baseball's not that way. Baseball's a game. It's methodical. It's you watch the guys play, and it's, as a player, it's fast. To the fans on TV, it might not be fast, but it is, and it's a beautiful game. They're ruining it with all the different crap that they're doing. I get the man on second because in extra innings you're saving the bullpen, you're saving pitchers, but the pitch clock, the pickovers, it's like, do you want guys to steal 70 bags? Of course they do. So, like, now you're taking all of these stats into, and like, for a hitter, a pitcher having a pitch every 20 seconds is a benefit to the hitter, no matter what. Sometimes it might be a benefit for the pitcher if he's late or if he has a bad swing and you get right back on there. But if a guy takes a giant hack on you and now you're back in there and you have to throw another pitch, it favors the hitter every time. So I would make the regular season important again and go back to, I agree with that. I think playoffs it was special when 4 teams made the playoffs, right? And
unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
No, it's not. It's money. It's all about money. It's always been about money. In Japan, the playoffs is this. You win your league, you get to the second round. Second and third play each other in a 3-game series. The winner of that goes and plays the first place team in a 5-game or a 6-game series because they start up 1-0. That's the reality in Japan. So you're putting emphasis on the team that wins gets an advantage, right? Let's be real. The team that won last year, the Braves, they didn't get an advantage. The Diamondbacks came in, won a series, went over there, whipped them, and it was just like, what just happened? And so, yeah, I believe that it make the regular season important again to where you actually reward the 3 teams that won their division, that they're automatically into that round.
Well, yeah, because look at all the teams last year that won the division. They all went out in the first round.
Yep. And I think that's wrong. I think that's taking away from what they accomplished. And so now it's like, well, maybe winning as a 3rd seed wild card team is the way to go, because then you're playing and you get hot and then you go on, right? I think they got that wrong, and I think they need to change it.
I agree with baseball, and us like Manfred don't like either way too much in-game advertising, so much wrong. Yep, I agree with him on that. That's all he cares about.
Yeah.
And now, granted, Selig was bad himself, but one thing I will admit that I always loved about Selig, he knew about the game. He loved the game. Manfred, I don't think does, because any commissioner, and he's flat out said this, any commissioner who calls his damn sports trophy just a goddamn trophy, like he did, just a piece of metal, like, really, dude? You're calling your own game trophy that you commission, that you supposedly love, a piece of freaking metal. Like, seriously, dude. how is a I mean, what must be going through your what must be going through a player's mind when they're going through these when they're going through the thick and thin of it in the battle through the season in the playoffs? They hear their lovely freaking commissioner hear that. I mean,
It's the state of what it is. He makes $20 million a year to make these decisions, but it is what it is, right? I mean,
yes,
I've enjoyed this talk a lot. I do have to get going. It's been an hour, but I appreciate it. I got little kids. I got to go to sleep.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's almost time for me to go to bed myself.
I appreciate what you're doing with this. It gives a chance for guys to give their opinion on where things are staying at right now in the sport, but also kind of bring back some memories. It's been fun to kind of walk that path with you guys. And so I appreciate your show. I saw some of the old names that you've had on your show, and you have a pretty good list. I'm pretty impressed.
I try, but I mean it's hard when I've tried to reach out to a numerous amount of people, but they don't want to get back, or they busy, or they got through PR staff or whatever. I don't. It's hard. So I just thank the ones that I do get a hold of that actually take time to come on. So I appreciate you guys the most,
For sure.
for sure.
Byron,
And
I hope you get a chance to go to Japan and watch a game once there.
good luck with that. I don't have the money for that ever. Good luck. I mean, it would be nice, but yeah, that's never going to happen. um, but before we do log off here, like you said, I do appreciate it. Um, I mean, if you do know anybody like former players, whatever, please send them my way. You got my contact info. Please send them my way. I'd love to have them on
Will do.
for sure.
Will do. I think this is a perfect outlet for people to go and chat about their careers and what they've done and what they like about the game right now and what they don't. So I appreciate
Exactly.
what you do.
And even if I have to get you on with them, so be it. You can do a three-way on here. So I mean,
For sure.
by the way, but by the way, Baseball or Us says thank you as well. So
Thank you, Baseball or Us, whoever you are.
thank you. Yes, thank you. You're one of the biggest fans of this show, Baseball or Us. I appreciate it. Without you, please shed the word, Baseball or Us. Please spread the word to everybody you know. Please. I appreciate the views that you give. I appreciate it. You're one of the best viewers I have. So thank you again. And thank you, Dennis. I'll keep in touch with you. But yeah, please send anybody that you know my way. In fact, like I said, if you have to come on, so be it.
Sounds
So
good. Thanks, Byron. I appreciate you, man.
all right, have a good night and take care of the kids.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that does it for Dennis Sarfate. That was an awesome conversation. Thank you to Baseball or Us for joining. Again, you're the best. Please spread the word out to anybody you know. You're one of the biggest fans I have on here, especially when I have a baseball player on. That's why I try to get as many of them as I can just for you. But yeah, thank you again. I appreciate it. And have a good night. See you again. My next interview, I'm trying to get um let's see. I'm trying to get either Kevin Mensch or Sean Kelly, former Nats pitcher. So we'll see who I can get one of them to. So that'll be next week. So stay tuned. And same to you, Baseball Us. Be on the lookout because one of those two will be the next guest. So have a good night. Thank you.